What makes 5Q unique is that our team of professionals have a deep understanding of this commercial real estate industry and all the clients that we serve in all property types, from retail to multifamily to office and industrial. Our people also have deep knowledge in information technology and in operational technology at the property level. That means that all devices in a building, we're very familiar with how to secure those devices, how to set up those devices so that they are secure right from the start. We work with all aspects of our clients' executive team, IT team, and cybersecurity team to make sure that they have the proper layers of defense for the critical assets that they're trying to protect.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Realcomm Live. I got to tell you, today's conversation is going to be one that's going to be insightful, informative, and for me, it's going to be really, really enjoyable. The gentleman that we're going to be bringing on here in a second, Clayton Ulrich, the SVP of Operations and Engineering at Hines, one of the world's most successful commercial real estate companies. He's probably one of the most experienced, long-standing senior execs with over 40 years of experience. Clayton has seen it all. He will tell you, there he is. He started as an engineer, has come up through the ranks of Hines, and our conversation is going to have a couple different angles. It's number one, we want to dig into your brain, Clayton. We want to know, how did you last 40 years at one company and all the things you saw at that company? Number two, we're going to talk about a little bit about why it's so important to recognize people who've been in the industry for a while. Even though the tech is changing everything fast, the knowledge of somebody like yourself compared to somebody who's been in the business 3 years, not even close. And what we're really looking to get out of this conversation is some sage advice from somebody who started out as a raw commercial real estate guy. And through our journey over the years, you've found an appetite for technology and innovation, and how did you make that change? So with that, welcome. It is good to see you. I guess I would call you my friend. And let's start out with a little intro. Tell us a little bit about Clayton, going all the way back to, what was it, 1973, I think is the year.
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to start by just saying, in June of 2023, I will have been in this business for 50 years.
Wow.
I started in September in September of 8th, I will be with Hines for 47 years. But I started back June 1 of 1973 for a small gas company, Tenneco Gas here in Houston, in their real estate group.
Wow.
And I got some great experience and got to know some great people that really wanted their engineering to be industry leading, even though they didn't see themselves necessarily competitive in the real estate business. They were a small real estate player. And, I had a good friend that worked there for 13 years and left and came to work for Hines. And I had enough respect for him to say, hey, when you find out it was a good decision to go over there, call me. And he did. So I ended up coming to work for Hines September the 8th of 1975 as what then would be called the City of Houston licensed third grade stationary engineer. And in Hines, I've gone from building engineer to engineering management to corporate engineering leadership to corporate operations leadership, global sustainability officer, and now carbon strategy leadership for the firm. And Jim, it's only been possible because Hines has been such a vibrant, growing, and open company. Hines likes to grow our talent internally, and they like to reward people that work hard and can be diverse. And so I've been just blessed to be here. I'm not highly intelligent. I'm a hard worker, and I'm diverse. When the good Lord gave me my dose of things, He didn't overload any of my bucket. I'm not particularly smart. I'm not particularly athletic, but I'm also not short in a lot of areas. So, I've just been blessed to be
here. Scrappy, tenacious are kind of some words that come to my mind. Yeah. Persistent, doesn't quit. Yeah.
Well, I want to add value, and I want to make a difference in the ways that I can, and I want, Jim, one of the things I do is I look forward at how I want people to think about me at the end of my time,
Right.
and I try to model my behavior for that.
Interesting.
I want them to not forget about me because I want to impact them in such a way that they can impact other people. Because look, every building we build eventually will be tore down, but the people will continue to influence other people, and that's the real opportunity to make a difference.
So this wasn't on our list of questions, but what you just said made me think about it. In a world of 140 characters per second, per tweet, and being able to instantaneously send a message around the world, it feels like critical thinking is kind of taking the back seat a little bit. And spending a half hour with Clayton, and understanding your journey could be invaluable to anybody, right? Because of your perspective, your context. How do you convince somebody to not have a job, but to embrace the concept of a lifelong career? I mean, you've obviously had a career. It's not just a series of jobs.
Jim, I think the key, and I didn't know it at the time, but I'm doing what I was meant to do, and I love what I do. And in working with my own children, I've encouraged them to try different things while I'm paying the bills, so to speak, and find something they love, because they're going to have to do it for a long time.
Amen.
And I find that if you're doing something you enjoy, you're intuitively going to be good at it because it doesn't feel like work, and you apply yourself. And it's not the grind of a job. And that's what creates the career. It's a passion for
Right.
what you do. An artist, a chef. I mean, you name it. The people that love what they're doing, it just comes out,
Well,
and they
and
do it well.
you take that most people take that so for granted. It's such simple, quiet advice. I'm mentoring a young guy now, and all he wants to do, he's got out of school, he wants to get a job. I want to get a job. I want to get a job. And I said, well, what kind of job in what kind of industry? And he says, I don't. And his resume's all over the place. And I said, I need you to send me a list of your 10 favorite things to do in life. And he goes, what does that have to do with anything? There's a real disconnect. People don't understand that internal passion will get you up early and working late. And obviously after 49 years in the industry, you found the secret. You have found the secret. So, all right, there have to be a couple highlights that make you chuckle, giggle, that you really remember. What a couple highlights in this wonderful career.
The overall highlight, Jim, is that through my growth with Hines, I've been in a series of jobs that I had to really stretch and grow to achieve. It starts with at 21 years old, I was overseeing the engineering leadership for a 230,000 and a 500,000 square foot building. At 23 years old, I was overseeing the operations on the engineering side for the Houston Galleria that we had built. At
Wow.
24, I was
23,
at
23.
24, I was opening up a 1.8 million square foot building in Minneapolis. And then at 26, I joined corporate engineering for Hines, and have been here in corporate engineering. And so, the good news is I had people that cared about me and wanted me to succeed. And so I never was on my own, but they can't, it's like everything in life, they can't do it for you.
Right.
You have to do your part, and you have to be willing to talk to them openly about your challenges and your problems. And you got to be willing to grow and be better. So I never felt alone, but I always felt like I got to do more. And,
Well,
I feel like, Jim, I have a very mild inferiority complex. I don't feel like I'm good enough, which
yeah,
causes me to be willing to work harder to deserve
yeah.
and fulfill the expectations people have of me. And it's been a gift. It's had some stress with it, but at the end of the day, great people mentoring me and supporting me and believing in me and helping me, coupled with my willingness to work hard, has really been the keys to success.
Well, and it's a life with purpose, right? I mean, instead of, randomly jumping around jobs, collecting paychecks, you had a purpose, you understand it early. And I think, not to be the old generation talking, to the, trying to preach to the young generation, but I think there's some real value in understanding that. And it's not just about the quick buck, or that what you do and what you create and what you produce matters. And obviously that sentiment has gone throughout the entire organization, because you can go in, I used to joke in the old days, I can go in any city, look at 10 buildings, and I'll tell you the Hines building in a split second. They just looked different, smelt different, felt different. You could see the quality, the passion of people like you. It was that obvious. So, is there one project or something you worked on that after this long career that just sticks right out at the top?
Well, projects, I'd have to go back to the old Pillsbury Center, which is First Bank Place in Minneapolis now as a project. But I don't think for me it's a project. It's the journey
Okay.
of helping the company fulfill Mr. Hines's vision for what engineering operations can be. Jerry Hines is different from most real estate companies in that he's a degreed engineer that was practicing engineering that wanted to be in the real estate business and learn the financial side. And
Hmm.
so he's always had a huge foundational belief in the value of not just the financial arrangement, but the way you operated and the way you built it.
Right.
And I can tell you when we first started this, we fit right in with the industry. We weren't optimizing the opportunity, and so it's been the journey to really transition the operation engineering group. And Jim, I think in fairness, trying to be a little careful, I think we can point to cities where we wouldn't say, but the people that work with us and have worked with us say that we transitioned the operations engineering in their cities to be more professional and to be more included. I mean, we've gone to city after city where the engineering manager didn't even get the utility bill, and he's supposed
Wow.
to be managing the energy. And some people join us and they think we're a little crazy, and then after a while with us, they either fit and they become us,
Right.
or they don't fit. But
Yeah.
look, I think we've had an impact on the industry, and Mr. Hines would be proud of that.
Yeah. So, is there any situation, project that made you run and want to hide under the covers? There's got to be a couple of those.
It wasn't a project. It was, Jim, I'll say, geez, my first tech project, my first software project, wasn't qualified to do it, but I was determined to do it, and I was scared. It was a
Yeah.
whole new learning curve for me. But you
How
know what
long
we
ago was
did?
that? How long ago was that?
Almost 25, 30 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
The firm had reached a point where even though our manual work order and maintenance recording and scheduling systems were effective, they weren't recognized as open-minded and leading. And so we reached a point where we knew we needed to have a computerized maintenance management system.
Yeah.
And what I found in the market at that time was really centered around the substantial maintenance requirements of industrial and manufacturing, and there wasn't a system we felt that really fit real estate. And so our assignment was to go figure out how to fix that. And it ended up being a partnership with a company, Database International Group, that we still use their products today.
Wow.
But it was
Wow.
a unique partnership where they were a local Boston company that needed national exposure, and we needed a special project. We needed a
Right.
special product.
It's called
My
leverage,
name
I think. Yeah.
my name was going to be on it, and I was determined that if I were going to give our people a tool to use and expect them to use it, it was going to be something I believed in, and not just something that was there. And
Right.
so I think you have to say we were successful. It's hard to use any software that long. It's evolved and changed, and we've partnered for a long time. But yeah, that made me nervous. Jim, I think my biggest challenges have been my own professional growth. That's an individual choice, and it's not easy, and sometimes you have to change your instinctual behaviors to have learned behaviors and a bigger set of tools, not just one tool. And it's been a real challenge to evolve and grow to keep up with the change and meet the opportunities and the expectations. And with that comes the challenges of managing the self-induced stress that comes with all those opportunities. They're not
Exactly.
easy.
It's not easy.
uh,
No.
and
No.
there's challenges and opportunities, but they're not free.
No.
And then the
No.
last one is I've had to grow personally. I've had to grow personally a lot to transition to really focus on the well-being of each team member and realize that my job is I'm not a boss. I'm a support person.
Right.
I'm a mentor. I'm a leader. And Jim, that's benefited me both professionally and personally. It's positioned me much better with my own family, and my own family's positioned me better at work. And it's just it's just a constant learning experience, and it's not been easy for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to do it myself. I don't like to let other people do it because I enjoy what I do, but that doesn't grow them,
That doesn't grow. Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's important for me to.
Such a true, simple, subtle point, but yet so many people miss it. So many people miss it. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we're going to come back, we're going to go back to that day that Clayton called me, and I didn't know him, and he said, "Jim, you don't really know me," and he explained who he was. I think there's a whole new generation of tech coming I need to know about, and I'm not necessarily sure I understand it, but I want to talk to you. We'll come back and continue our conversation with Clayton Ulrich.
IBot saves one of our clients over 50 hours a month on their property management project. Another client saves 25 hours every month by using its AI-powered invoice automation. And Rebot finishes the task in just 30 minutes. RPA as a service empowers you to advance your analytics, guarantee consistency, and increase productivity, all while enhancing accuracy and improving employee morale. As a scalable, reliable solution, Rebot becomes an extension of your team, growing alongside you and creating more time for the human members of your team to do what they do best. Your time is important. Let us help you create more of it. Rebot is powered by Retransform, a global technology services provider and partner.
All right, let's bring Clayton back and continue this great conversation. All right, so do you remember that phone call when we talked?
Jim, I do. I remember that phone call, and I even remember before that phone call, I had met you at one of your earlier Realcomms, and I've always been interested. It comes back to fundamentally, Jerry Hines has never been willing to accept status quo, and so he expects us as a team to make our products better, our projects better, our occupant experience better. And when I reflect back, the very first building I operated was total manual with a set of time clocks and a pin board that most people on the call today don't even know what
Don't
I'm
even
talking
know.
about. But there's always had to be a better way, and it's just taken a long time to get the better way. And the tech really got into what I'll call the software, the business process first. And so it wasn't really what I was assigned to do, accounting and stuff like that. So I came to one of your earlier conferences. I remember it was in Dallas, and I went, this isn't quite what I'm doing yet. So, but then when you created IBcon, it got my attention. I said, okay, it's evolving. And that's when I reached out to you, because I said, okay, now it's moving to buildings, and it's going to make a difference in my wheelhouse.
Interesting enough, we always had the smart building conversation in Realcomm, but people thought it was just for, accounting and back office. So we just changed the name and basically pulled the smart building conversation out of Realcomm to a place when you got the email that said this is happening, you go, and that's when everything really opened up, and we had a whole new audience, engineers and facility managers and even, HR people, because to your point, it was at the building. Now we're talking about something very specific that I can relate to.
Yeah.
So going back to that conversation, that was a time when things were really starting to move a little faster, and we were kind of leaving the old things behind and grabbing on some new ideas like a network in a building, and even back then building Internet of Things. Do you recall, like, when you jump back in, what did that feel like? I mean, was it new? Was it just needed to dust off some old ideas? Because there's a lot of people who hesitate making that jump and that change.
Jim, it had moved a lot, and I had some catching up to do, which is what I told you on the call. It wasn't impossible, and I wasn't naive to it or not a neophyte by any stroke. But part of the challenge, right, for us on the business side is always to make sure that it creates that value. At the end of the day, it costs money, and we've got to be able to draw those lines from the vision to the execution to the value creation. And so, I was thankful that you embraced me and said, okay, I'm going to introduce you some people. And it didn't take long to catch up, but it took effort to catch up. It had
The
to,
decision. It was a decision.
well, and it took multiple times the same conversation to try to understand not only where it was, but where it was going and how we could benefit from it. When I think back, the first BMS I had, it was an electronic time clock with a few analog temperatures and a few status light boards. And we always knew it would go more, but we're not the innovator of the tech.
No.
We're the consumer of the tech, and we're some of the innovative minds behind the tech. but we're not a parts and pieces company. We're not a product company. We're not the person or the company delivering the computer or the sensors and stuff. And so working with people in that business to make it better has been so much fun.
Well, we're a society of ADD people, right? We're very impatient. We get bored quickly. We are attracted to shiny new objects. Fear of missing out. I mean, and at some point, if you're going to do this tech seriously, you got to take a little bit more sober, mature look, right? You got to understand those complicated, boring things like enterprise architectures and networks, and you got to roll your sleeves up and get a little dirty, right? And for executives like yourself to guide teams making that, you don't have to understand all of it because that's impossible, but you need to understand the fundamentals. What would you say to your peers who are in senior level positions like you about rolling up the sleeves and figuring it out?
Well, I think you got to want to, and you got to realize it's going to take some time. But I also, Jim, this industry is full of people more than willing to talk to you and help you. And they're not all just salespeople. I can think of a whole list of people that had the same conversation with me 3 or 4 times before I could really begin to grasp it all and embrace it. And so I think you got to make a commitment. You got to know it's going to take time. You got to believe it's going to create value. And then you got to find some people that are in that part of it that you're most interested in and engage with them.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and again, it seems like such a logical idea. Okay, things are changing. I've been in the building industry. This tech thing is coming. I should probably pay attention. But I'll tell you, there are still, a good number of senior level execs and organizations all over the world, real estate, that kind of understand it a little bit from the side, but are willing to take the deep dive that you did, so you could correctly guide your teams, right? I mean, you'll never understand the bits and bytes anymore. There's too many of them, right? But you've got people who do that. But you still need to understand the impact that those bits and bytes are going to have on the business. And I think that's the real value proposition, is to know where you want to go.
Jim, it is, but also look, you can't do it by yourself. And what Hines has
No.
been steadily doing is expanding our team and creating and recreating. Today we have a global digital strategy office. We have a corporate data and analytics team. We have our IT has expanded. We got a business systems processes group. Hines is willing to and invest time, money, and people. They recognize it's growing and it's got to be resourced. And so I think a leader also has to find the path to find the right people and the right resources and the right structure that aligns with how his company is structured.
Yep. So we're going to get a couple minutes left. I want to get to the conversation, that I think is really at the base of all this is taking the time to recognize leaders who are willing to work 3 jobs, give of their time. We've been recognizing through our Digie Awards people for 24 years now. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we started a new category called the Lifetime Achievement. These are the people that just rise to the top. And so we picked 20 at our 20th anniversary. We picked 20 of them to catch up. And then every year we've been giving it out since. And you were one of those recipients. And so what would you say out to the industry out there about why it's important to take time to recognize people, but also why it's important maybe to take them to the side and get a cup of coffee with them?
Well, Jim, first off, it's not easy to be a leader. It's not easy to be a thought provoker, an innovative person that thinks outside the normal easy path. And I think the people joining us today would benefit from knowing that the people that are thinking that way drive a ton of energy and motivation from recognition. But I would also point out that it doesn't have to be a prestigious industry or public award like your awards. I think we underestimate the one-on-one conversations. And let's remember that most people that do this don't do it for the money.
No.
They do it because they're in pursuit of a belief and a dream, and they swim upstream, and they're willing to change, and they're willing to push the status quo. And they get more energy out of someone coming up and saying, hey, I've noticed you were talking about this. I'm interested in that. Or, hey, I noticed you did this or you did that. Those private conversations are a source of energy and support and confidence gain from people willing to have that conversation and just recognize what they are doing.
Yep. Well, and to take what you just said, and then you combine it with this concept of giving out awards to, like that we do. If I was new to this industry, I think I'd email somebody on our team and say, "Hey, can I have the list of the top 25 lifetime achievement winners?" And I'd sort through the list and maybe find 5 or 10, and I'd go have lunch with them, and they would be willing to have lunch. These are the most giving, sharing, collaborative people that I've ever met, and that our community promotes that. And so yeah, I think congratulations again on that award. Well deserved. And I know that you are much more of a giver than a taker, and hopefully people watching will understand that the value of giving awards to people, and we just don't give them to anybody. There's a lot of thought that goes into them. So thank you for being number 24, and we will be doing it again next year, number 25. So all right, we are out of time, and we could keep going, but I got to say thank you for taking the time. Hopefully, a lot of young people out there in the industry starting out will take the 18 minutes that we've been speaking and dissect every word you said, and maybe you'll get an email or two, that says, "Hey, I heard you, and I'm gonna take you up on it. I got some questions." And
Happy to do it.
all right, so thank you again. You have a wonderful day, and we will be in touch.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that conversation was worth more than $1 million. I just hope people take the time and understand the wisdom that man has. Take a little time to dissect it, and I guarantee you it will help your day, make it a little better, and it'll help your career. And like you heard him say, he's always willing to take the call. So let's bring on one of my favorite parts of the conversation, our review of the weekly news. There he is. Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. You've been out on the beach suntanning?
Yeah, sort of.
No,
Not really.
You've been working. All right, let me get out of your way. Let's hear the news, and I'll come back when you're done.
Hey, thanks, Jim. And I really good, great show with Clayton. Thank you, Clayton, for all the years you've given to the industry. It's been phenomenal, and looking forward to some more. Now I'm going to recap a few stories from our weekly news. So our lead story this week, it comes from our own Chuck Neiswanger, and it's entitled "Corporate Real Estate Trends: Striking the Balance Between Physical Space and Tech." So in panel discussions in our August corporate real estate webinar series, we focused on changing workplace, need to recreate corporate office spaces that really reflect a sense of teamwork, belonging, community. Keeping up with the new workplace demands of tenants really requires that our corporate real estate technology stacks go way beyond traditional integration of business applications and include data from all kinds of different things, from smart building devices and workshop management apps and ESG decarbonization. So for landlords, this means they're going to be seeing probably an overall reduction in gross lease space over the next few years, but coupled with an increase in tenant improvements. And for tenants, probably will require an expanded tech strategy that can be challenging on a number of levels, especially available skill sets and costs at a time where profitability may be questionable. So I'm going to hold there and encourage you to read this great article. Thanks, Chuck. Next, I just want to shout out to this week's tech partner, Ascensus, with their article on 4 key things impacting occupant experience. So landlords, they all now understand how important it is to keep tenants comfortable, but even with that, tenants are asking for more. They want more agility in the workplace configuration, better services and amenities, seamless, secure networks. So what are the factors that impact occupiers most? 1, technology like responsive IoT for occupant comfort, wireless bandwidth, whether 4-bar cellular, 5G, Wi-Fi, or CBRS. 2, flexibility in the way space can be used and changed on demand. 3, seamless experiences wherever occupants go in a building or on a campus, no matter where, whether it's from access to control to service delivery. And then, of course, rock solid security and privacy. And there's much more in the article, thanks to Census. So for those of you who've been coming to Realcomm, IBcon over the past 10 years or so, you know that we feature a smart building best practice showcase where we bring in 30 plus real estate execs representing some of the most iconic smart building projects from around the world to mix with attendees in a highly interactive poster session. And over the years, we've literally memorialized hundreds of notable buildings and projects in our showcase profiles. Now, each week in Realcomm Live or in our briefings, we're sharing one of these project profiles in the weekly news briefing. And this week, we're focusing on Hotel Marcel, one of the pioneer all low voltage hotels in North America. Another great example by Sinclair Holdings of employing a DC infrastructure in commercial buildings. Finally, and this is welcome news, by 2025, there's estimated to be 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs open globally. That's a 350% increase over the last 8 years, according to Cybersecurity Ventures. And Microsoft, they are intent on closing this gap. They estimated in 2021, the country had about 450,000 unfilled positions that required cyber skills, and the average salary for those jobs was about 105,000. But Booz Allen Hamilton reported annual earnings of entry-level cyber employees now to be around 150,000. So despite the steep demand and the high salaries, only 3% of US bachelor degree holders have cyber-related skills. So Microsoft's given 150 million to federal, state, and local governments to support upgrading their agency's cyber protection. And they've committed an additional 20 billion in advancing their security solutions over the next 5 years. So they're collaborating with about 180 community colleges across 44 states to provide accessible pathways into the profession. So learn more in this great article. With that, I'm out of time. I'm going to wrap it up. That's it for me today. So everyone have a great weekend, and back to you, Jim.
All right. So Howard, just to piggyback a little bit on that last story, we talked about that last week on Realcomm Live on the privacy/cyber conversation. What do we do? And I think one of the conversations played in a little bit to this Microsoft announcement. We have to partner with people like Microsoft so they can understand the requirements for an industry like ours, not just the enterprise issues, but the building IoT, smart building conversations. So I am truly grateful for a company like that to notice, that we are short some cybersecurity expertise and to put that kind of money and commitment behind it. And I think there's real opportunities for industries like ours to jump onto that bandwagon and leverage the big heavy lifting they're going to do and then apply it to our industry. So that's great.
And I would encourage other tech companies, the other big tech companies, to do exactly the same thing, to work together, to collaborate with our private sectors, our public sectors, our government, to help put our heads together and figure this out.
Yeah, we got some news. We got some news coming out in a few weeks. We're kind of in the final information gathering stages. There's a lot going on under the covers right now that we're going to be talking about throughout the fall, and just look for those announcements. They're coming soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day, and I'll see you next Friday. Or are you going to be here next Friday, or are you traveling?
No, traveling next Friday.
Okay, so Lisa, I think
a couple of weeks.
Lisa and Nance will do the news. Awesome. All right, you have a great weekend. All right, so before we talk about next week's show and wrap up, let's take our final hear from our final sponsor, and I'll be right back.
Real Foundations is a professional services firm focused on helping companies that develop, own, operate, or invest in real estate make smarter, more profitable decisions. From the building itself to the way it's developed, operated, and capitalized, no firm understands the inner workings of the entire real estate ecosystem as well as Real Foundations. We make real estate run better.
Oh, very near and dear to my heart. And that's the whole venture capital, private capital activities going on in the prop tech world. It's been going on since about 2009. We've had some ups and downs, some adjustments, but in so many respects, the capital just keeps flowing. So we said we want to get a handle, not on where is it just today, but get some perspective on where some really smart people think it's been. Have we seen the results? Are we getting the bang for the buck? And what do they expect to see in the next couple of years as far as the big innovations coming out of these massive investments? So we got two phenomenal guests, Travis Connor from Building Ventures and Paige Pitcher from Modern Ventures. And we are going to have one lively conversation, hopefully give you some insight as to the trajectory of all the investment dollars coming into our industry. With that, you have a great day, great weekend, and we will see you next week. Be well.